Hi, I'm Sharon Bill. Welcome to my theory tuition series where we're working step by step through the ABRSM theory grades. There are lots of resources available to help you if you visit my website. If you go to sharonbill.com, you'll find some free PDF information sheets that you can download in US letter or A4 to accompany each step of this series. There's also a page with links to all of my YouTube video tutorials, and you can access information about the books that I have available. I've written an exam technique book, How to Take Your ABRSM Music Theory Exam. It's full of tips and techniques on how to best prepare for your exam and also how to best make use of the time when you're in the exam room. So if you visit sharonbill.com, you'll find it's all there. If you can give me a like, that'd be really great, and subscribe to my channel to keep updated. There's lots more to come. And now we're going to crack on. We're going to continue with the theory paper from the 2017 papers of Grade 1 Paper C. And so if you turn with me to page 12, we're going to have a look at question 4. So I'm hoping that you've had a little go of this yourself. First of all, it's always better to try. You will learn better that way. You're only ever writing in pencil. Have a nice sharp pencil. I've got a mechanical pencil, so it's always sharp. And your trusty eraser, and you will also need a ruler to hand as well. And so let's have a look at question 4. Question 4 asks us to add the correct clef to make each of these notes as shown in the first answer. So we need to add a clef to make this note match the name it's given. And so this has to be bass clef, because if it was treble clef, that would be a G flat, which wouldn't then tally. And so you've just got to keep jumping between your clefs. You might find it helpful to just jot down on a scrap of paper before you start what the notes of your treble clef and bass clef are, if it is that you struggle jumping between these two clefs. And so we shall press on. Now the spaces in the treble clef spell face, F-A-C-E, and so this must therefore be treble clef. So we'll go ahead and pop that in. Middle C, now this is also in the treble clef, because if you visualise that middle C is in the middle of the treble and the bass, it's at the bottom of the treble, the top of the bass, and so therefore this must be treble clef. Now here, this one needs to be bass clef, because the spaces in the bass clef spell all cows eat grass, A-C-E-G, and so for this to be C sharp, it needs to be bass clef. As we've just explained, the treble clef spaces spell face, F-A-C-E, and therefore that wouldn't tally. So there we go. And if the spaces are all cows eat grass in the bass clef, this therefore must also be bass clef. In treble clef, that would be an F. Now this also is bass clef, because the lines, if you remember the little rhyme, good boys deserve football always, good boys, so that must be bass clef. Every good boy is the treble clef. And so here we've just said that the bass clef is all cows eat grass, so all cows eat, A-C-E, so this again is bass clef. Let's jump to the next line. And so as we've just explained here, that can't be B in the bass clef and then the same place G in the bass clef as well, and so this must be treble clef, and the treble clef is every good boy deserves football, so every good, G, that's correct therefore if it's treble clef. Now we've said previously that the spaces in the treble clef spell face, so F-A-C-E means that this therefore must be treble clef. And so for this to be an F, we need good boys deserve football, that's a bass clef. If it was the treble clef, it would be every good boy deserves D sharp. This is an F sharp. And then finally, we just need to think about what we've written here. If this is middle C, next upper step being D must also be treble clef. And so that completes that question. Let's move on to question 5. So we've got some scales work here. Now we've already answered some questions in a previous question on key signatures, and so we've kind of done the work for this one already. We need to name the key, and we also need to draw a bracket over each pair of notes that make a semitone. Now there are 2 ways in which we can figure out what key we're in. We can glance through and see what sharps and flats there are, and then we can also note what note it begins and ends on. It must begin and end on the key note, the tonic. So here we're beginning and ending on note C, all cows, and there's our middle C. Therefore that suggests, and it must be C major. And we can confirm that when we glance through and see that there are no sharps or flats, and we know that C major has a key signature of no sharps, no flats. There is nothing in the key signature, and so we are doubly sure that this is in the key of C major. Now we've got brackets over the pairs of notes that make semitones, and they've actually given us the answer here that we can then sort of extrapolate the thinking to give us the answer for these next 2 parts if you can't quite remember what happens with these semitones. You'll notice if we're counting backwards down the octaves 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, notice that the semitones are on 3 to 4, 7 to 8. And so we know that they must be the semitones in every major scale, and that's what we learned when we were working through the music theory and practice workbook. And so we now have the information that we need to apply those semitones to the next questions. Now we first of all need to find the key of the next scale. So here we're beginning on note G, every good. We're beginning and ending on G. So if you think every good boy deserves football, F, G is next door to that. And we know that G major has a key signature of F sharps, of 1 sharp, which is what we have here. And so we are doubly sure that we're in the key of G major. Now here we've got the semitones bracketed for us, but remember this is a descending scale, and so we now need to reverse that to go upwards. So we're now counting 1, 2, 3 to 4, 5, 6, 7 to 8. So we've counted ascending this time. Let's look at the next example, the last one on this question. So we have our beginning note, the D above middle C, and we're finishing on Good Boys Deserve. So there's the D. So we're looking to be in D major, and we can confirm that when we see we've got 2 sharps, F sharps and C sharps, which we know is the key signature of D major. And so we can go ahead and name that key. And then here we're descending, so we can follow exactly the same pattern. So we know that it's 8 to 7 is the semitone, 6, 5, 4 to 3, and that completes that question. And so let's turn over the page. So if you'll turn over the page to page 13, we can now go on to answer question 6. So we are now counting the degrees of the scale within the context of this little piece of music. They've told us that the key is D major, so we know that D is 1, and so we're always counting from note D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Remember, we always count D as number 1, and we count 1, 2 starting on that point. So that's there our 7th. So let's do this on this next one. So if D is our first, E is our second, F is our third. I know that of course it's F sharp, but the key signature takes care of all of that, so we don't need to concern ourselves. Righty ho, let's carry on. So here we've got an Every Good Boy Deserves. We've got a note D, and so that must be our, we could either say 8th or octave or even first. It's all saying the same thing, it's just the tonic, the first note of the scale or the octave. Let's count this next one from D. So from D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's our 6th. And if that's our 6th, the next door note must be the 7th. And that would be next door to the D, which is our 8th. So that confirms that. If you're not sure though, you can always count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's carry on. So counting from D, because we're always counting from our key note as 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've just got to be very careful. Oh, better make that look like a 7th. We need to be very careful that we're always counting every single step. So we counted space, line, space, line, space from our starting point. So here we've got a D again, so we're back to the key note or the tonic. So we'll say either 8th or octave or first, either one of those is the same thing really. Let's carry on. So here's our first one, D, 2, 3, 4, D, E, F, G, 4th. So if we're counting from D, next door to that is E. We've got 1, 2, we've got a 2nd. And that's the end of that little bit. Now question B is still referring to this little extract. It asks us to give the letter name of the first note of the melody. Now they've been very helpful here in just giving you a little reminder to include the sharp sign if necessary. There's a big clue there, it's probably necessary. And here we've got an F, A, C, but remember in D major we've got the key signature of F sharps and C sharps, so C won't quite answer the question. We need to make sure we say it's C sharp to take account of this key signature. So C sharp, and that's the job done. If we move on to question 7, we're still looking at the topic of intervals and the degrees of the scale, but we're looking at it now in terms of little exercises rather than within the context of a melody. However, this time we've been given the interval and we've got to create that interval by adding the correct note. It says here that we need a melodic interval. That means an interval that comes one after the other, as in a melody, rather than a harmonic interval where they come together as in a harmony or a chord. And so we're counting from F major because we're in the key of F major. F is our tonic. The key signature will take care of anything that needs to be considered there. We just need to count the steps up. And remember to always count the given tonic as note 1 and then work it from there. So a second is going from F next door to G, 1, 2, next door step. And so the fact that we're changing clefs really is irrelevant. We just count from the given tonic. It just keeps jumping octaves or jumping clefs, but the principle remains the same. So we just need to count. So 1, 2, 3, 4 takes us the space, F, G, A, B flat. So here we've got a low F in the bass clef and we need to count an octave. So we just need the next F up, which would be that one, an octave jump. If you're not sure though, by all means count it, giving this a 1, 2, so we get space line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's our octave. So a 7th now from this F in the treble clef, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 takes us to the E. Next door, step down from the F, the octave. Last one is the 5th. And so we want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we need a ledger line to get us to the C to get to the line because we've gone line, space, line, F, G, A, B, C. And that completes that question. And we'll leave that for this video. And so in the next video, we'll look at the last remaining questions. I do hope that you're finding this helpful. I hope that you're enjoying this. Please do give me a like and subscribe to my channel to keep updated. And please do visit sharonbill.com and make use of all of the information that's available to you there. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.